as a data executive, you have to establish the strategy and the vision, but you also have to deliver. How do you balance the strategic piece with the tactical? What sort of things do you do, like maybe proof of concepts or things like that?
Yes, in fact, I'm a big fan of POCs for a purpose, is what we like to say. So innovation for innovation's sake can be useful, especially for personal technical development. But without a goal in mind, I find that those have usually fizzled out before they get off the ground, even. So even if it's a simple problem statement of something like prove out how we can achieve ACID data compliance on S3, and then having your team research technologies, implement a POC, and share the results, the learnings from that will get you something in your organization, even if that learning is just, hey, this didn't work. As long as you're sharing that, that is a very useful outcome. So I always like to have that mentality, and we use that for our next generation data lake ecosystem that we're hosting in AWS. So we've allowed anyone to get access to our AWS environment to do experimentation. Again, they can do whatever they want in the interest of learning. If they do want to take something into our even non-prod ecosystem, they have to at least share what goals were they trying to achieve, think the tools and techniques that they used to solve it, and then how successful were they in achieving those goals. And then based on that, there's some documented learnings and the ability to progress into this makes sense to build as a use case. We try not to have it as a layer of bureaucracy, but more just as a, hey, you maybe don't need to solve this thing that already has been solved in the exact same way. If you're trying to solve it in a better, faster, cheaper way, that piece, that's awesome, and you can progress in. But we really want to take this opportunity to promote learning as well as progressing things for a real business benefit and not just to facilitate someone growing their own personal skills. There's a place for that, but there's a stronger place for those purposeful POCs that progress our use cases forward to a defined endpoint.
Very good. Switching gears just a little bit, I know that networking is important, and I'm sure that we've talked that we know some folks in common. How important is networking with not only folks within your organization, but outside of your organization? And what are some of the things that you do to network?
I may be a bit contrary here. I don't know if I'll regret saying it. Honestly, I don't know if it's that important for success. What I mean by that is networking, I think, can help you get successful faster, absolutely. Whether it's leveraging practices or learning what didn't work. Those aren't necessarily prerequisites for success. So I've found much more practically useful, and I think you hit it, networking within my own company has been extremely useful, and really not just to learn best practices, but even thinking on the business side, those relationships are what's so hugely important. Being able to build, again, a personal bond with someone. So again, as much as I want to not feel like I'm being sold something from external vendors, my business partners don't want me to sell an IT solution without even understanding what their business problems are. So that is the aspect of networking that I really, really feel is critical to success within a company. And again, yes, you can accelerate, and we have several instances where I'll use Elation again. We ask them as we're starting our data governance program, hey, who are some of your customers that have really done it well? And we've asked them to facilitate some meetings, and we've met some incredible folks along the way. And that is in the technology realm, and it's extremely useful. I still feel like the biggest benefit from some of that networking is within your own company, within your own team, to be able to build those relationships that just make it easier to understand a common goal and work together toward that goal. Again, having said that, I mentioned a couple of the examples. I like the promise of the Cincinnati chapter of the CDO Forum. If nothing else, a much more cost-effective and convenient way to meet people in the same situations as you as going to something like a Strata conference. But of course, once COVID's over, I'd still like to go to Strata conference as well.
I think you're right on. I mean, building trust in relationships is critical, and definitely, and it does help as you're trying to get buy-in without trying to sell. I completely agree with you on that. So your role is a very transformational role. And that term transformational gets thrown around a lot, has a lot of different meanings. What does it mean to you in General Electric?
Yeah, we have several things that we've termed as transformation, all accurate. We've gone through a agile transformation with how we execute. We've gone through a digital transformation. Even with respect to data, we've probably actually already gone through several iterations of what I would call those transformations. So when we first started our data lake program back in 2015, that was aimed largely at enabling our data scientist community specifically to solve problems that would take months to solve with disparate manual data extracts, data everywhere. So the term data lake and its applications started to enter into that common vernacular, even at the business level. We were fortunate enough that our CEO of Aviation was a big sponsor of that. So while it wasn't ubiquitous, I'd associate kind of that phase with an early form of data literacy transformation that we went through. And then from there, we went through, I think, what the industry would probably now call as data democratization through the explosion of our self-service program. So once our data lake achieved a critical mass of data, we had this perfect storm of hype and the practical applications and ability to meet that hype that resulted in just data availability unlike anything the business had ever seen. And it coupled with a growing program aimed at identifying the most useful data sets, developed by IT and the business and promoting them for reuse. We had more people working with good data than ever before. And then now, that really the transformation I'm most excited about is this next phase that we're entering into, and we're calling it internally this enterprise data strategy. So at its core, it centers around the premise that if you can identify the best data in your company, acquire, curate, and stage it in a flexible technology architecture that matches technology capability to consumption patterns, while governing as an accelerant for consuming data as opposed to a speed bump, you've got this foundation to support a modern enterprise architecture that can grow and change as fast as your business does. So this is going to be another huge undertaking, another literal transformation that we haven't seen before, because it doesn't combine just technology. It's technology, it's business process, it's data stewardship, it's information management, it's enterprise architecture, and as a combined strategy versus being run as independent efforts. So, if I think of data democratization as the practice of making data available to everyone, uh, not to be too corny about it, I would call this like trusted data democratization. So that's the process of making good data not only accessible, but dependable for everyone. And that's the space that we're entering into now.